Welcome back. Later we'll be joined by Dara McIntyre, who has co-written Sworn to Silence. That's a powerful memoir of Brendan Boland, who, when he was just 14, was sworn to secrecy by Cardinal Sean Brady about his abuse by Father Brendan Smith. Mary O'Connor of Survivors of Symphysiotomy will also be with us. But first, would a united Ireland be more trouble than it's worth? Sinn Féin wants a border referendum by 2016, yet opinion polls show support for a united Ireland is declining in the north. Would a referendum fail? And should we be careful what we wish for? Here to discuss the eternal Irish question are Mark Cosgrove, an Ulster Unionist Party councillor in Newtownabbey, Lynn Boylan, a Sinn Féin MEP for Dublin, David McCann, who has a PhD in North-South Relations from the University of Ulster, and Martina Devlin, novelist and Irish Independent columnist. First, Lynn Boylan, your party has called for the referendum to be called under the Good Friday Agreement, but wouldn't it be counterproductive to have the referendums now when the polls are showing that they wouldn't be carried?
Well, I don't think so. I think we're 15 years out from the Good Friday Agreement, and it provided for this mechanism of a border poll. We believe the timing is right, but we're not calling for it to happen overnight. What we're looking at is mid-term into the next administration, that you would have a lead-in where you would actually have, like what you're seeing in Scotland now, a very calm, reasoned debate that's respectful, and to discuss the merits of a border poll. And in terms of, I suppose, the support for it, we would say, let's try. We would absolutely, do you know what I mean, if a border poll was negative, well, then we would respect that decision. But we believe that the time is right now to have the discussion, to open the debate. Sinn Féin has called for this for a long time, but we believe now that the timing is right. And to let's actually open it up, in terms of the economic merits to it.
But if it's lost, then under the Good Friday Agreement, you have to wait a minimum of 7 more years before holding it again. So doesn't it make sense to wait and try to persuade people?
No, I suppose from Sinn Féin's point of view, is like almost 500,000 people voted for Sinn Féin on the island of Ireland. We believe that, and we've been very open about our position on a united Ireland. We've always argued that a united Ireland is better for people both north and south. We're a small island, it doesn't make sense to have partition. So, I mean, we've always been open about that, and now you have a position where 500,000 people have voted for Sinn Féin. So we actually think that the merits are there to have the border poll, start the discussion and take it from there.
Mark Cosgrove, can you ever be persuaded that you would be better off in a united Ireland?
I think the easy answer to that is no. But I think there's a very important point here about this mechanism. The only way a border poll can actually happen is when the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland deems that there's a possibility, a strong possibility, of a united Ireland outcome from that border poll. And clearly, not just with regards to electoral results and electoral mandates, but also with regards to opinion poll after opinion poll in Northern Ireland putting support for the Union at over 80%. It's just not going to happen. So I think that we need to build on the strength of the Good Friday Agreement, look at the wonderful north-south and east-west links that we're developing, look at the massive trade and the jobs that are depending on that trade, and let's get on with the job that we've all been given. I see this as a sideshow, as a smokescreen. You know, we've an awful lot of work to get on, both in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and of course in the UK and within the European Union as a whole. Huge workload on our plates. Let's get on with that, and let's respect the mandate that's been given in the Good Friday Agreement.
Well, we're going to discuss the economy at length because it is a major part of the debate. But I just want to put to you that during the 1980s and the 1990s, a lot of Unionists in the North would have described the South as priest-ridden, to use that once popular phrase. That can't really be said anymore. You know, Ireland, the south of Ireland, has become secularised very quickly. So, apart from economic reasons, what are the other reasons why Unionists would not want to be part of United Ireland?
Well, I think outside of the economic reasons, you get to some of the core points of some of the reasons that we're divided on the island. You know, I feel British because that's how I feel. I feel culturally that my links are with the rest of the United Kingdom, although I love the business and sport and everything else that takes place on the island as a whole. So I think there's a whole host of cultural reasons why people feel as they feel. But I think the economic reasons are the reasons why I don't think it will ever happen. Because what you've got is two economies that are so very differently aligned in a whole host of measures that it just wouldn't make any sense for the people of the Republic or the people of Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom.
Martina, you're from Omagh, and you have lived in Dublin for a long time. Can you explain the psychological and the emotional importance for you of Ireland becoming united?
I think as two parts of one island, we're lopsided when we're divided. I think that the north needs the south and the south needs the north. Without the south, the north is smug and insular. Belfast is almost indistinguishable from virtually any British city. But the south needs the north even more, because the north could bring industriousness, it could bring probity, which is needed in the Irish political and business firmaments, and it could bring a sense of otherness. We're all too insular, both sides of it, and it strikes me that a cross-fertilisation between Anglo-Saxon and Gael, between North and South, between Catholic and Protestant, could energise both sides of this island. We might find new ways of approaching ideas. The possibilities are limitless.
Well, so much has changed since the Good Friday Agreement, and strangely, it seems that it has made a united Ireland even less likely, because younger people in the north, according to the opinion polls, younger traditional nationalists are saying that they see themselves now as Northern Irish. You know, that the Good Friday Agreement seems to have strengthened that sense of identity. So people are not so hungry for united Ireland anymore.
Perhaps there's a sense of a plague on both your houses, but I think that the Republic has approached it in about as wrong a way as it could. We laid claim in the Republic to the north, but we forgot to persuade people. We never put forward convincing reasons for why the North should merge and why it should throw in its lot with the Republic. And that's extraordinarily high-handed, and it's no wonder that the North didn't want to come into the Republic. And I think what has to happen now is that there needs to be a reunification of mindsets, an internal reunification, an attempt to reach out in all sorts of ways and bridge mindsets. There needs to be compromise for starters. There needs to be an understanding that someone's British links and affinities are not just right for them, but they're honourable. It strikes me that if after hundreds of years the Unionist population in the north feels itself to be British, well then we should honour that as well. But make a case for the north to merge with the Republic. And I mean, I think one of the ways you could do that when the economy is mentioned is to point out that one day, Mark, Westminster is going to wake up and realise it's spending a fortune on this state, which, you know, is not viable under its own auspices. I mean, just very quickly, the Republic's economic status is fairly dire. It's running a deficit of 5%. Now, the North doesn't release economic figures because it's a region, not an independent state. But various economists have estimated that if it did, the deficit would be somewhere in the region of anything up to 30%. So a lot of money is being pumped into the North. I would like to see some of this money pumped into reunification, but with consent.
Well, David, as somebody said in America, it's about the economy, stupid. So what would be the economic price of unification?
Well, I think before you get to a border poll, republicanism needs to get its own ducks in a row economically first. You know, one of the things that struck me about the whole border poll debate was no one who was proposing it had answers to basic questions. Would we get the NHS or the HSE in a United Ireland? Would we get the euro? Would there be some kind of currency arrangement with Britain? Irish language, things like that. No one seemed to have an answer to those questions, those fundamental questions. And until you can give an argument to someone like Mark will never be convinced on it. But to people who can be won over by the economic arguments, until you can actually give them the brass tacks of how much will this actually cost, and not massage figures, not make up figures that don't exist, you need to be able to say, right, this is going to cost, this will be painful, but in the longer run it will be better. So let's talk about the economic advantages of reunification. The South, currently workers earn around £7,000 to £8,000 a year more than the average worker in the North. So higher wages. And also we were talking about what the North can bring to the South. Economically, the South can bring to the North what it desperately needs, and that is entrepreneurship. That is a vibrant private sector, which the North desperately needs. 2/3 of Northern Ireland's economic output is from government. A third of our workforce is in the public sector. Just to put that in context, it's 13% in the South. It's more than double, and we need to address those problems and address answers to those problems as Republicans before we propose any referendum, and we're not there yet.
Lynn, are people prepared to put up with the short-term pain for the long-term gain?
Well, like I listened to what David's saying, what we need to see is we need Britain to show us the books, because the issue is we hear the propaganda around the 10 billion subvention, but what's calculated into that is a lot of expenditure that wouldn't apply to the North if the North was part of a unified Ireland. So the massive expenditure on defence, on British museums, that wouldn't account. So we need to see the books, also the revenue that's generated out of the North. We only get guesstimates on that. Major companies like your Asda, your Sainsbury's, Texaco's, they all run their corporation tax through their headquarters in England. So the issue is we don't have the figures. So to give the answers that David wants, we need the British government to open up the books and start to have the transparency. And that's what happened in Scotland. What they were saying in Scotland was that there was that they were being subsidised. And what you're seeing now is actually that Scotland was making a surplus. So we need to put the cards on the table and have the discussion. But what Sinn Féin wants to see is a new republic. We would much prefer to see an NHS-type system. We don't want a HSC. But we were talking about a vision for the future of this island. So it's not about an Ireland and just tacking on the 6 counties. It's about a new republic.
The question is, Linda, I mean, I look at this like you're selling a product. It's like anything. You're selling someone a new arrangement, and I don't know how you sell to a sceptical population. Come and join us. The economy is banjacks. The government's a wee bit corrupt, and society just doesn't really function. So, you know, with a sales pitch like that, you don't need Mark. You don't need the Ulster Unionist Party. The whole point of it is that we need to know. I agree with you. The British government do need to be more fulsome in their facts, but equally we need to be more realistic. The fact is, Northern Ireland does exist at a cost to the British exchequer.
I think Mark should have his say here.
There's a missing element to the debate, and I think that missing element is Republic of Ireland public opinion. First of all, like any Irish politician, to go to the doors at the next election, the subvention that we're talking about would be a minimum of €12 billion. So I'd like somebody to go to the doors at the next election, to every door with multiple standing order and direct debit mandates for €500 a month, because the 2 million taxpayers in the Republic, that's the level of subvention that we're talking about per man, woman and child. And that's based on current employment levels within the public sector in Northern Ireland. Clearly a lot of that employment is based on central United Kingdom functions that would disappear under a unified Ireland. You've got 2 economies that work brilliantly together as trading partners, as customers of each other. I think it's unbelievable now that the Republic of Ireland is now the 5th largest customer of the United Kingdom. That's why the $7 billion bailout was agreed unanimously within the House of Commons, and I fully supported it because 200,000 United Kingdom jobs depended on Irish consumers. But the idea that you can align two economies that are so fundamentally different in wages, in VAT, in unemployment, in a whole range of economic data.
Mark, it happened in Germany in 1990.
But with respect, the Republic of Ireland is no West Germany in terms of an economic powerhouse. We're talking about one of the third or fourth largest economies in the world in Germany, vis-a-vis.
Well, you're right that it's been estimated that 1.3 trillion euro has passed from West Germany to East Germany in the first 20 years of reunification. But not everything comes down to economics either. Chancellor Helmut Kohl was actually advised by economists not to go for reunification, but he did, and it's been successful. And that's why I would argue that although we advance the economic argument, we also advance the importance of cultural interaction, educational interaction. I think that a lost opportunity has been, for example, exchange programs. One of my big disappointments with the current government is the lack of north-south interaction and cooperation that I see. It doesn't seem to be on the agenda. And I think it's very important. If you just look at school exchanges between the island of Ireland and Spain, Portugal, France. It's a way for people to understand different cultures. We could do that.
But we don't need to unify. Listen.
Well, no, I'm saying it's a step towards. It's a step towards unity, or indeed a valid thing to do in its own right.
President Higgins and the Queen's reciprocal visits showed that Anglo-Irish relations have never been at a better place.
During that visit, it once again came up, this proposal that Ireland would rejoin the Commonwealth. Could that be a quid pro quo for unification? There would also be some economic benefit spin-off from Ireland joining the Commonwealth. Yep. Is that something that you would buy into?
Ireland would be very welcome to join.
But it wouldn't make a difference.
At any time. In fact, you know, if it wanted to join the United Kingdom again, I'm sure.
But these are the other things that, again, outside of economic issues we're talking about. What would we do about compulsory Irish? You know, look at the Newton Ards Road, very loyalist area. I mean, you're going to put up Irish signs. You're going to force those kids to learn.
They couldn't manage that in Dingle.
But these are serious, and we also have to think that if we really want this, I mean, we were talking about the British Army costs. There's going to be some security costs as well, because not everyone. Look at the response when a flag was taken down on City Hall. The economic cost to Belfast was huge.
I think there would be a lot of international goodwill. I think that Europe would put forward money. I think that the US and Britain would put forward money. There could be job creation schemes.
Let's build on the
Things could be
relationship
done.
we've got.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree for now. Yeah. I'm sorry, this really is such a huge debate, but we've run out of time. I want to thank Mark, Lynn, David and Martina. And after the break, I'll be joined by Dara McIntyre to discuss his new book on clerical abuse in Ireland, and Mary O'Connor of Survivors of Symphysiotomy to discuss a damning report by the UN. Join us then.